loyalty described as, do you care? And I care, and that's why I'm on this show. Comes a time, here we go.
I'm a sucker for O'Teal, man. I saw that same feeling that I have, that would he filled a void that I didn't even know existed.
It feels so good to, as Ben said, to try to do something about an issue as opposed to complaining.
If you can't help, don't hurt.
If we could just all get out there and throw cream puffs at each other, maybe things, instead of bullets and angry words, it would be better.
When you stop laughing, you stop living.
There's a worldwide surge in interest in mushrooms.
It was deep, man.
It's not that TM makes your mind quiet down there. It already is. We're just stuck up here. We've lost access.
Jumpin' Jack Flash came out by the Stones. So I thought, all right, perfect, man. I'm gonna drive. And I started driving through the neighborhood, and I got a text from Mick Jagger.
People saying that, what we do is non-essential. Well, playing those few gigs that you saw me at felt pretty essential to me.
It wasn't like they were clapping from here. It was they were clapping from here.
My view of things is that death is the last and best reward for a life well lived.
Like it's the strangest of places if you look at it right,
If you're liking what you're hearing, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get your bus pass for an extra episode every week.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time. That's O'Teal.
And that's Mike. And wow, we had percussionist, Bill Summers, who I knew mostly from Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters.
Yeah,
but
and Quincy Jones.
Played with everybody, like everybody.
Yeah.
I could just list, we could just go on and on. He talked about it a little in the podcast, and he just got on the ladies. He was like, that was just the ladies.
I know.
It's like, wow.
And it goes back, like, man. Holy cow.
He's originally from Louisiana. Their family had to leave Louisiana because of just horrible racist crap. Jesus. And they went to Detroit. And then from Detroit, his story goes on from there. And it's just like amazing. But it's such a historian. He knows the roots of how everything ties back to Africa.
Yeah.
And that is central in New Orleans because it's the one place in America where black people are allowed to keep their drums. But he's been to Cuba, Brazil, Haiti, all the other places where the African culture and the religion wasn't unbroken. Like
right.
All these rhythms are actually specific to something, either in the religion or some, like it could be a harvest,
right.
Something to do with nature, water, air, all the elements. But so he knows all this stuff. Like he knows, that funk beat that's in this Barquet song is actually Wadu. That's a rhythm that goes for the god Obatala.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I am playing all these rhythms. I don't know what they go to. Like I need to connect those. So he's just amazing, man.
And the story and the history and everything that he goes through in talking to us kind of just reinforces the importance of the communication of the language of music. And when that was the only way that you could communicate, because if you're two black men talking on a Sunday, you're considered to be conspiring. So the music is
the black codes and all that.
That's nuts. That's absolutely out of this world. This was a history lesson and then some, and Bill's got a new album out that he plugs at the end. Just this one's incredible. Really, really great. Thank you, Bill. And
thank you for being alive and being you. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone for listening. And we're on Osiris, home to so many great podcasts. Go to osirispod.com to check those out. And check us out at patreon.com/comesatimepod for a bonus episode each week. Thank you. Stay safe. Be good. We'll catch you on the flip. Don't miss this one. Talk to you soon.
You're in Brazil?
I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh. Whoa, look at that.
That is shaker.
No, wait a minute. Look at this.
Ooh, now who is that?
That's Obatala.
Obatala?
It's an African saint that that they have here in Brazil.
Really?
Yes.
What is that made of?
It's marble. It's some kind of carved and painted black.
Nice.
Obatala is the oldest African saint.
Really?
That's great.
Yes.
That's like exactly what I want to talk with you about. Perfect. Is that stuff.
Well, hey, man,
We're in. Let's do it.
I'm a priest.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's why I have these beads on.
See, this is even more. This gets better and better.
This is a bead for Obatala.
What is that? What kind of bead is that? It's.
Yeah, I made this. I had to consecrate it myself, but it is for this same thing. For this, it's for Obatala.
So it has to be white. That's his color of clothes and stuff.
I'll translate it. Obatala. Oba is king.
King.
Tala of white.
Yes, that's
anything white is owned by Obatala.
Wow,
I like it.
What is on the his
scepter?
His scepter. What is that?
This is a bird. It's a scepter that has a white dove at the top.
Ah, wow.
And doves are sacred to Obatala. And also snails. You see the little round things at the bottom?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Those are snails. So Obatala, when you do an offering, you offer him these snails. Or actually, it's very deep. It's so deep, I can only just tell you that that's Obatala.
Well, it's okay. I know it would take years to unpack it all, but the angle that I have is I had a drum teacher from Africa when I was 7 from Ghana, Kojo Baden.
Oh yeah, he was that way, or Ashanti.
Yeah, Weedy, Weedy Brema, I'm sure, right?
I know Weedy very well.
He actually knew Kojo. It blew my mind. But I realized that I have all these rhythms in my head that I've not only made a living off of, but also, it's fed me spiritually, mentally, intellectually, in every kind of way. And I was watching this interview with you, and you were talking about these rhythms that are in all Black music, whether it's gospel, jazz, funk, blues, like whatever. But all these rhythms are tied to either these certain gods or rites that we don't know anymore. Like, I don't know them anymore. Like, Kojo showed me the rhythms, but I was 7, I didn't get all the deep, like, everything. And now I want to know, because I feel like I've been in playing this music, like, I'm playing these rhythms and worshiping in this religion in a way, and it's given me back. But I have made the connections. Like you said, the rhythm for Obatala is Wadu.
Well, are we actually are we on there?
We're already going.
Well, let me kind of explain this to you. I, as a Black American, I was raised Catholic. And there was a gap. I couldn't really understand it because no one could really explain what was missing. And then one day I went to a ceremony. A guy named Richard Pablo Landrum from New York, he took me to a ceremony and they were playing Bata. Okay, now, when I walked into the ceremony, I realized what I was missing, and the drumming. And I'd been in the conservatory playing classical piano for 10 years. Okay, now, at one point I asked myself, well, as an African American, do we have our own Chopins? Do we have our own Beethovens and our own Bachs? No one's teaching me about that, So when I went to the ceremony, these guys were playing drums, but, it was not a jam session. And being classically trained, I knew that this was very special, that these rhythms that they were playing, they weren't making them up. I could tell because it was too organized.
It fits together, the parts.
Yeah, it was so phenomenal that I said, well, there's my Beethoven.
Is this when you were in Detroit or in New Orleans?
Well, I'm not in, this didn't happen in New Orleans. This had happened when I was 14, 15 years old.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so shortly thereafter, I received in the 60s, I received these. And each one of these represents an energy in nature. You know, the fresh water is Oshun. The ocean is Yemoja. Everything green on the planet is Osai. So I could play rhythms for the trees. I didn't get that in the conservatory. I mean,
so
Beethoven,
there are rhythms that go with each with the Yemoja, with all the different.
Everything has a reason. And then I had to join a fraternity called Anya. And they said, well, you can't touch the drums. And I said, why? They said, because you're not Omo Anya. So in order to touch the drums, I had to have my hands baptized. So that's deep shit, bro. I mean, I was
man.
I was touched by that. I said, well, now I've arrived.
Yeah.
And I eventually wound up in Cuba, and my time was Cuba. And I met a gentleman by the name of Chacha Esteban Vega de Bacallao y Alo de Oshun. And he was an ordained priest of the drum.
Yeah,
and
here we go.
I joined his family, and he taught me all of these sacred rhythms, many of them. I learned from some other people also. A guy named Pedro Horta, Puntia Rios, Puntia, and a lot of other people, Lázaro Galalaga, and I just learned how to play for ceremonies.
Yeah.
And there came the training, the classical training on the African side.
Yeah.
And that's very special. I always often tell people, in order to go forward as a Black man, you got to go backward.
That's what
I'm trying to do. To go forward, you have to go back and kind of re-understand who you are and where you came from, because as an African American, or some people say we were slaves. My people were never slaves. They were prisoners. They weren't slaves. You can't. No, there's a big difference politically on the planet Earth when you say a person is a slave. Politically and legally, that represents something. But when you're a prisoner, or a prisoner of war, that's different. Now, if you're a slave, you might be able to go home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But as a prisoner, you're stuck. You're working for someone. You're forced as a laborer to pick cotton or sugar cane. So I broke those chains. This broke the chains really for me. These chains of slavery. My people weren't slaves. They were forced there. So it just brightened the world up for me. It just made shit better for me. I understood more and more. The civil rights movement has not even begun yet.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's just about to begin for everybody, for poor white people too.
Yeah.
Well,
but truly immense.
Everybody needs to understand that there's this thing about if you're into what I'm into, you're worshiping the devil or something. That's some bullshit, okay?
Yeah, it is, man.
I'm not even anywhere near being a devil, and I'm trying to help the planet, not hurt it.
Well, you also got those missing pieces filled in, like for me, because my mom and dad were the same. They were raised Catholic in New York, and they rejected all of that. But they were very heavy in the civil rights movement and stuff too. My dad was born in 1931. My mom at 1936, and but my dad rejected all religion. My mom believed in God, but just rejected religion, organized religion. And so to have those missing pieces filled back too, not just the Beethovens and the Chopins and the Mozarts musically, but your religion that you're connected to you know, I want to learn all that too. You know, that's
I wouldn't call it a religion though.
It's not in the Western sense. I hear you. I hear you.
You know, I mean, the
whole system, the cultural system.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it is the Portuguese. Well, I'm in Brazil right now, and the Portuguese were some of the first to take slaves, and they took millions of people and brought them to Brazil. Mm-hmm. Okay, now they had to go to the Pope. They had to get permission from the Vatican to take slaves.
Jeez.
And a lot of people don't know that, you know, so I cannot support someone who would, you know, that's not a saint. The Pope or the church should not condone taking people and hurting them like that. You know, so I'm a great Catholic, but I ain't a Catholic. I didn't need Moses to tell me thou shalt not kill. I was born with that. You know, if you slap someone, it hurts. If they slap you, it doesn't feel good. Yeah. So why do that? You know, it's just you're born with these things.
Yes.
You know, you're born with
conscience.
Yeah, it's a conscience. You know, respect your father and mother. I don't need you to write that on a tablet. You know, why? I mean, you know, I'm not going to hurt my dad or my mom. I'm not going to sleep with my brother's wife. I don't need you to tell me that. Tell me something new. Tell me something I don't know. You know?
That's universal.
But anyway, that's what this has brought me to. It's a freedom, a true freedom of just expression, and the music that I play, whether it be with Quincy Jones or Herbie Hancock, it came from this. Jazz came from this. R&B came from this. Rap and hip hop came from this. You know, the rapper, the drummer doesn't know the name of the rhythms he plays, but I do. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's what I want to learn. I want to learn the names. That way I can connect it up to everything, you know, even that I'm writing. I'm playing plenty of rhythms I don't know the name of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there are names for them.
Yeah. Well, I hope I could come study with you somewhere. Do you teach it anywhere? Like
I don't teach
in a school or?
I don't like the word teach. I share information. You know, it's a big difference between being a sharer and a teacher, because usually like in America, a teacher is above the student. Yeah. But the person that's teaching is learning as much from the student as the student is learning from the teacher. So you're on the same, sharing information is better for me. I call myself a sharer. Nice. Yes, I will share the information.
I find that interesting that they said you weren't able to touch the drums until you had your hands blessed. Baptized. That's really interesting.
They take you through an initiation, and it's a rites of passage. You know, young men. Let me give you a good example. We play 3 drums. They have names. One is called Ialu, which means mother drum. And the mother drum is the leader. So Mama Rubes, you understand? That's a lesson. Mama Rubes.
Yeah.
Okay, now the mother and the itotele is the next biggest drum. It represents the father. They do not talk on top of each other. The mother asks or talks and the father answers. So they have conversation. Now the baby plays the okonkolo, which is a smaller drum, represents the children. And it plays a simple pattern that holds the family together. So when you take that away from a Black man, then there's your explanation of why we have so much turmoil amongst our young men, because they don't learn that lesson. And so to play these drums, you learn the importance of family. Without one of those members of the family, there is no family. So that's an important lesson. When the Europeans took people and enslaved them or made them prisoners, they told them they could not speak their language. They couldn't play those rhythms. or they couldn't play those drums. So even now, if I deal with someone who's, say, Christian, they may call me a devil worshiper. And it's so far from the truth. That's because they've been indoctrinated, they've been broken, they've been enslaved. They don't have
voodoo.
Yeah, they don't understand. They don't really get it.
Yeah.
So this brings us to. Go ahead.
No, I was saying you have to have that training, to play drums like we do. You have to understand the importance of family. So we wouldn't have the problems that we have now with our young people if they understood this. They wouldn't even deal with that. They would be more about protecting the family and supporting and taking direction from elders. It's a part of that training.
Yeah, I mean, well, they would sell our families off from each other, which I want you to get into a little bit of that too, because I know the drum is such a central thing, and we weren't allowed to have it in this country, except for apparently in New Orleans, which is where your people are from.
Definitely had it in New Orleans.
And that's why all this music came out of there. But could you tell a little bit of the story of your family? Because that's a fascinating story. Speaking of family getting sold off and all that stuff,
Well, what are you asking me?
Your family history in New Orleans, because didn't you do like a PBS documentary or something where they came to you because this place?
On my father's side, and I still visit this place quite frequently. I can go to the actual plantation where my family came from.
Wow!
And I go there quite often. I see it quite often. And a Shell oil company actually bought the property, and they wanted to know more about the history. And there was a woman who ran the African American Museum in the area called Kathy Hambrick. She had the African American Museum in a place called Donaldsonville, where my mother was born. So I got together with her. She said, there's some people that would really like to meet you. And I said, who was that? Well, the people that bought the plantation have never met any descendants from that plantation. They just know that, it was a plantation and that Black people were there. But there was a white family that I'm akin to, who owned the plantation. My great grandfather, his name was George Kenner. Now, if you go to New Orleans,
Kenner,
you land in Kenner, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And my great uncle owned Kenner. The entire city was owned by William Kenner. And so I know this. My parents, my father knew the history, and he passed it down. And so the story is this. George Kenner owned a plantation with his brother, Duncan. Now, my great uncle, Duncan Kenner, was a signer of the Confederate Constitution.
Wow.
Okay? So my history,
wow.
I know the history. And very few Black people can go as far back as I can. My great-great-great-grandfather, his name was William Kenner. That's where I got my name, William. That's where my father got his name, William. That's where my great-grandfather got his name, William. William Kenner was a slave on that plantation. Okay, now my great-great-grandfather, George Kenner, he decided he wanted to marry a white woman, but he had a Black family. Okay, my great-grandmother had 7 children by this slave master. Okay, now I don't know how he treated her. I guess he must have been okay with her because they had 7 kids. But when he decided to get married, he had to get rid of his Black family in order to marry this woman. So he put my great-great-grandmother out. He he expelled her from the plantation. And she was pretty intelligent because she had stashed enough money. She had stashed enough money to buy 3 of her kids. So she left the plantation and moved to St. Louis with her children. One of them his name was Alexander Kenner. Now, Alexander Kenner was like my dad. I mean, he was, my father learned the mathematics. My father was a mathematical genius, but he only went to the 3rd grade. But he drew blueprints, put open heart furnaces in the steel mills. He was a genius, right? Well, this guy, Alexander, who was his uncle, was a genius also. When he moved to St. Louis with my great-great-grandmother, they started a business, which was they had a cleaning business to clean clothes. She became independently wealthy because he ran the number thing on. You know, he had the number thing happen. Right. And she would take money from this business and she would travel back to Louisiana and buy 1 kid at a time. And at that time, a kid cost maybe, the going price for a slave was about $2,000, $2,500. So she had 1 kid left to buy, and his name was Bill Kenner, William Kenner, which is my grandmother's brother, father. And so she went back to buy Bill, and Duncan Kenner, who was like Scrooge, he wanted more money for him than the other kids. And she said, well, what kind of arrangement are we talking about? I said, well, look, he is a trainer. He trained horses. The Kenners had the biggest thoroughbred horse stock in the country. They had jockeys on their plantation that won the Preakness. Wow. All the jockeys at the time were black. There were no white jockeys. All the jockeys were black. Okay? And so to make a long story short, he wouldn't let Bill go because he was a horse trainer and he would lose money. So he said, here's what I'll do. You give me the money you brought with you, which was $2,000. And then Bill will have to stay on the plantation for another 3 years at $15 a month. And after 3 years, he will have made up the difference. Oh my God. So she said, okay, I'll do it. She gave him the money, but she died before the 3 years was up. Mm. And Duncan Kenner got on, however he got to St. Louis, he went to St. Louis, he claimed her estate and brought all the kids back into slavery.
All of them.
All of them. Now, one of them was very smart. He actually sued. He was a mulatto, right? It was half white, half black. And because he was light-skinned, he was a mulatto. They treated mulattoes better than darker people, okay? So he actually sued his uncle, Duncan, and won. He won. And Duncan had to free the kids. And then he had to give back my great-great-grandmother's estate. And they left, and my great-great-grandfather, Bill Kenner, my great-grandfather, Bill Kenner, he started the first Methodist church in the area. And the headstone from that church is in the African American Museum.
Wow.
So there's a story.
Dude. Well, it all ties back to New Orleans, too, which is what's so fascinating to me. It's so great. You're such a living history book, or living history books. But this place where you can remember all this history and trace it back, and also is a place where Black people were allowed to keep their drums, which helped you get reconnected, going to Cuba and Haiti and Brazil. And
Cuba, it's interesting. A lot of people don't know the archdiocese for Louisiana was Santiago de Cuba.
I didn't know that.
There's a Cuban connection.
There's the connection.
Yeah, there it is. And, it comes up in the music somewhat. I'm out here on the road in Brazil with Donald Harrison. And,
I just saw him with,
he's a historian himself.
Yeah.
And so we talk about Congo Square. It was never really called Congo Square. Back in the day, it was called Place Congo or Place Negra, which is the black place. And it was back of town. And on every Sunday, the enslaved people or prisoners, as I call them, were allowed to go to this place and play their traditional music and dance, sing, sell stuff, And a lot of white gentlemen, they called them, would go there to acquire a black mistress. They called it a placage arrangement. And the mother of that girl, it would be a contract, really. And so this guy would have a black family on one side of town. And then he'd go on St. Charles after that and have his white family. But they were, and everybody knew about it. It wasn't like, it was kept a secret, but it was an arrangement where this white guy would have a black family, and he would have to take care of the children. He had to sign a contract and he would have to agree to educate the kids, take care of them. They couldn't just do it. They weren't prostitutes. But the arrangement was you couldn't marry a black woman. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? They had a thing called the Code Noir, the Black Code. And it's interesting if you can read this. If you go to Wikipedia and look up the Code Noir or Black Code, you can read the Black Code. Now, number one on this Code Noir was expel all Jews from the colony. It had nothing to do with black people.
Oh my God!
Get rid of all the Jews.
That was the first thing.
First thing, get rid of the Jews. Wow. Well, there we go. There's. Then we'll deal with the black people. Then you go down.
I've heard of the Black Code since I was like a very young kid. I didn't know that.
You can read it. You can read the Black Code. You can get this document, and if you go down the list now, black men were not. Two black men could not be caught together conversing. They couldn't do anything together. You see what I'm saying? You couldn't hang out with each other because you would be a conspirator then. Okay? Jeez. And they had one law say if a slave slapped or hit his master, they may cut off your finger. It was terrible, man. Yeah. We're talking about some barbaric, insane kind of stuff. But to know about it, it frees you. Because you know the truth. It's better to know the truth.
Just knowing that explains some things just in my personal history. Like my dad's dad, very light skinned from Gulfport, Mississippi. Has a lot of ties to New Orleans. I even have like a great grandmother or something was born there and lived there. But all the pictures of my granddad's family were destroyed on purpose. I believe by him. That's and possible. Now I think I understand why, because he's so like, he probably actually could have passed for white. I could tell better because I'm black and I can just sense from light-skinned black people. A lot of my family is like that on both sides. When you get up there on one side, you could pass.
You can't pass for white, okay?
No, because you have a kid, and then if you marry a white person, you could have 4 white-looking kids, and 1 black one, and that happened on my mom's side. And so they all married much darker. But I couldn't figure out. I was like, why is no information about my paternal granddad's family? And I think that's what it was. It was one of these. You said presage agreements or something.
It could have been, who knows? You have to research your history.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD. a Vermont hemp farm crafting affordable CBD products designed to help with stress and sleep without breaking the bank.
Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of one of our favorite places, Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We had them on the podcast. In 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD.
And Sunset Lake CBD crafts products with hemp grown on their family farm and ships them directly to the customer, cutting out all the cost associated with getting on the shelves at stores. They have CBD products for every occasion and offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables, and even for that anxious dog of yours, they have pet products.
Ooh, I need to get some for my dog that's barking all the time. But I'll tell you this, I use these. The Sour Bears.
So good.
They are CBD gummies. I literally, no joke, I take these every night. They help me sleep. And it's almost bedtime.
Yep. And I still, as said it before, I'll say it again. You go to a long show, you come home, my 42-year-old ankles are not what they used to be. And I rub that salve all over them and put them up, enjoy a nice cocktail, and just let it ooze right into those sore bones. And you know what, folks? All you Comes a Time fans, if you check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code TIME, T-I-M-E, you'll get 20% off all products. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code TIME, 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Thank you.
Get you some.
You know, I go to this land where I actually have artifacts from an archaeologist who dug underneath the slave quarters where my family came from, and I have these artifacts on an ancestor shrine. We call it Bobida. It's an Egungun shrine. So yeah. I'm able to keep up with my past because our ancestors are. I talk to my ancestors.
Yeah.
If I get stuck, I was taught by these Cubans how to talk to my ancestors. It's a specific procedure, and you have to be a priest to do it. You can't not anyone can do it, but you're given certain knowledge about how to do it. And I can ask questions. So if I get stuck and I only use it if I cannot figure out the situation. For instance, if I'm stuck in a business deal or something's going on, I can ask my father. I can go back and say, Dad, I need help. And I do certain things and I sit in front of him and I ask him questions and he can answer. I know how to get an answer. And if I have to, I kind of use that to help evaluate a situation. If I have to, I'll never use it frivolously though. You can never ask a question if you already know the answer. It's considered sacrilege if you ask a question that you already know the answer to. And you can never ask the same question twice. But then you're playing with the gods.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I told you already.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What was the process like of becoming a priest?
Well, I mean, it's pretty deep, man. Look, I'll give you some of the rules. Number one, I had to sit in one spot for 7 days.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I could not look in the mirror for a year.
Ooh.
I had to wear white for a year. When I ate, I had to sit on the floor. I couldn't sit at the table with other people.
Wow.
And someone else had to feed me like I was a baby. But they didn't actually put the spoon in my mouth. I was given a spoon, a cup, a tin cup, and a plate. And for a year, I could only eat with those utensils.
Wow.
I couldn't go out at night. I had to be in at 12 noon. I couldn't look in the mirror. I couldn't wear jewelry. So what happened, and I had to wear white for a year. Everything had to be white. Now, there was a reason for it. I figured it out, which meant you have to, you because you couldn't look in the mirror, you couldn't be vain. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you were going to take, I could look in the spoon or something, I could cheat. You know, I figured a way around it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you could figure things out. But the thing is, you had to go inside. You had to deal with you for a year. Okay. And during that time, I could not let people touch me, and no one could call me by my name. They had to call me Yahweh, which meant I'm married to God for that year. Wow. So I can't do anything. I can't, no sex.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to deal with being with you and learning who you are. And what a blessing, man. What a blessing.
Wow.
You know, I mean, these rules, I didn't even know that they had such rules. But
you're like, what?
This was the African
in at noon as a musician.
Look, I couldn't even be in the rain. Okay, I had to have a white umbrella. If I was caught in the rain, I had to open a white umbrella, and you know, because what it is the water, the rainwater would wash off the herb baths that I took that I was consecrated with. So at my initiation, I was initiated a priest in Havana, Cuba.
Wow.
Now you go to Cuba, everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows. You see, this is like Hershey's chocolate. You know, everybody knows it. It's if I'm walking down the street, they say, Yahweh, Yahweh. And,
cool.
You know, I would say Yahweh back. It was my answer. So it's beautiful to have that happen to you as a Black person. I wish that every Black person in America could experience this without prejudice. Just understand this is what we did. This is where we came from.
That's what I need, man.
And people honor each other because of it. You know, you learn respect. You learn how to act. You learn how to be a good person. Yeah. So what's wrong with that? You know, and some people call it voodoo. And then I have to ask them, I said, well, what does the word mean? What does that word mean? Translate that word for me. What's the definition of the word voodoo? You know what it is? Do you know? God. No. God.
Voodoo.
G-O-D. That is the definition of the word. It came from Benin, from Dahomey. All it means is God. So why are you mad at me? Because I like God.
Because I like God.
Yeah.
But that's how things got turned around.
Yes.
You know, things got turned around because I guess when you enslave a person, you have to make them feel that they're nothing.
Yeah. You got to cut it all off if you want that. But all this, it's so beautiful because all this is in, people hear Herbie Hancock, Stevie Wonder, you know, Quincy Jones, Alan Toussaint, all these people that you've played with, and they don't know that all of this is in that music that you're playing. Yeah, I mean, consciously,
the first thing that I did on Roots, if any episode of Roots, the first thing you hear are bata drums, and I'm playing a rhythm called Rumba Yesa, which is for Oshun, who is the represents love. Period.
Yes.
Love. So why are you gonna get mad at me for playing about love?
Now you're saying that love is the devil.
Yeah,
which I guess to you it would be. You're the person that feels that way. You know, it's like they've reversed everything.
Yeah, well, you know, you have to really understand, you know, human nature. And I'm not mad at white people. I'm not going to get angry about stupidity because, you know, ignorance is okay. That means you have ignored things. You know what I'm saying? You just don't know. But when you start using your ignorance to hurt other people, then you're with the devil.
Yeah.
All right. That's why black people back in the 60s and the black Muslims called white people the devil. You know, that's why it happened. You know, no, I'm not the devil. You the devil, not me. It's not, you know, but black people have been so damaged by this slavery thing that we're still half chains on.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have them. I'm as free as a bird.
Well, I feel like the drums and the knowledge of the drums, and if you can reconnect, can break those chains.
Well,
I mean, you can break them if you have a strong will anyway, but to be left, you know, still at this age, like rootless, foundationless, you know, the drums are that's what's going to help me like plug all the way back in. Cause that I have.
Let me share something with you. When I was in Havana, when I became a priest, I'm a priest of El Igual. Okay, this is a specific African saint. El Igual opens the doors of opportunity. You know, I represent that. And El Igual cannot be confined. It is the only priesthood that if I wanted to get up off of my throne and go in a front room and watch TV, I could. Okay, but none of the other initiates of the Orisha can do that. Only El Igual. Every day, they had to take me outside because I represent freedom. Okay, so they couldn't confine me. So they would take me out every day. And let me tell you what would happen on a daily basis. This would happen every day for 7 days. They take me out, and I had on a little pair of short pants. They were like they were knee length. I had a straw hat on. I carried a stick called a garabato because El Igual gathers things with the stick. And I had a canteen full of rum, and I had a goatskin bag full of candy. And every day they take me out, I had to give all the candy away, and I had to give all the rum away. So people would run up to me. The kids knew immediately.
Here he comes.
Here he comes. You know, so they would run with me. I mean, they would run after me, and I'd have to give them candy. And then the guys that drank, they would, oh man, he got a canteen full of rum.
Adult children getting their adult candy.
I got theirs, and I got a chance to go outside every day, which was very special. So, you know, all of these little things, you know, it was enlightening to me. You know, I'm still a Catholic. I go to the synagogue. I go to the mosque.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Buddhist.
Yeah, I feel like that too.
Yeah.
You know, if it's good, if it's good and it's good for you and it's good for the planet and it's good for other people, I'm that too. I'm a good Christian. I'm a good Muslim. I'm a good Jew. I'm a good person. You know, don't persecute me for that. People put Jesus on the cross and killed him. Okay? Yep. So, you know, he was a good guy.
That's why I trust him. Because I know, I was like, they killed him. So they were like, we can't let that go.
I like, who is they?
The Romans, apparently.
Did this, they did that. And they said this and they said that. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out, well, who is they?
It's important who they is.
Yeah, who is that? You know
one of my...
I know who they are.
I know. Can you tell the story, you know, on this last tour we did, we talked a lot about when things go wrong, like when your plane is canceled and all these things, and you get so frustrated. And we had that situation happen a couple of times, and I said, hey, remember all the people that were so frustrated because something held them up and made them late to work on 9/11, right? And then afterwards, you're like, hey. So now you had this kind of story where if I want you to tell it where you went to, I think they wouldn't let you graduate high school or something.
Oh,
and
man.
all these wrong things happened. But if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't have met Herbie.
I wouldn't have
I just love this story.
Yeah, well, you know, when I was in high school in Detroit, I transferred to another school because my parents relocated us to a suburb of Detroit. And I actually was on the yearbook staff. And when they called people to take pictures for the yearbook, the seniors, my name wasn't called. So I'm saying, uh-oh. So I went to the principal's office and I said, well, you know, I didn't get called to take 2 yearbook pictures, you know, as a senior. And they said, well, you have a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? They said, well, you lost a fraction of a credit or something, and we can't let you graduate until you make that up. And I said, well, can I just graduate with my class? You know, because it was humiliating, you know, not to graduate. It was a stigma to it. And so I asked the principal, I said, well, you know, could I just make it up during summer school? And they decided to tell me no. I walked out. That was my last day of school. I didn't graduate from high school. I never got a high school diploma. But what I did do is I went to work. I got my first job, not my first job, but when I went home, I told my father I quit school and I was a senior. And his reaction was quite different than I expected. He said, well, I guess you're going to get a job.
Yeah.
So I said, well, yeah, I went, a couple of days later, I got a job at Ford Motor Company, and I quit that job after 6 months because it was truly slavery. I went to work, it was dark. I got out, it was dark. And all I heard were drills and smell paint, and it wasn't for me. I got another job at a racetrack called Detroit Racecourse, and I had to be at work at 11 a.m. Well, that was great because I played music. At 15, I was playing saxophone and flute in a band in Detroit in the clubs. Wow. You know, so I did that. I worked at the racetrack. Now, I'm going to make a long story short. I learned how to bet on the horses from a guy in the bathroom. As an employee, you could not bet. You couldn't go to the window and place a bet if you were an employee. Okay, so they had this black guy in the bathroom that shined shoes. And he was not an employee, he was an independent contractor. He had that job shining shoes. So what he would do, he was actually a bookie. He was the numbers man. I didn't know, I had no idea he was a millionaire. I didn't know it. You know, he shined shoes. So everybody that worked in the racetrack, basically, especially the black people, I would place a bet with him, and then he would take a percentage if you won. Okay, he would take 10% or something like that. Well, one day I bet on what they call a daily double. You had to win 2 races, the 4th and 8th race or whatever, but your horses had to come in first on both of these races. And you know how hard that is?
Yeah.
But if you did it, you won a lot of money. Well, on this particular day, I was on the floor. I had won the first race, and people found out about it. They wanted to buy the ticket. People were offering me $1,000 for the ticket. I said, no, I think I'll keep it. And in that second race, my horse came across the finish line first. That meant I won the daily double.
Wow.
I had about 50 dishes on the tray. I threw all that up in the air. I quit the job. I flipped everybody off. And I won a lot of money. I bought an airline ticket to go to California.
Wow. I
was going for 2 weeks. And I got on the plane. And when I got to California and got off the plane, everything looked like Disneyland to me. I went to San Francisco. I had never seen the ocean. I had never seen hills in an urban environment.
Yeah.
So I was awed by this. Now, to make a long story short, I was living with my Uncle Boo and Auntie Frankie. And Uncle Boo was a civil rights activist. He said, Billy, if you were a resident of California, you could go to junior college free. I said, what? And he said, yeah. I said, well, Uncle, I don't have a degree. I don't even have a high school diploma. He said, well, let me take you over to this college. And he took me to a place called Merritt College in Oakland. And they gave me a test and I passed. And they said, we can let you in. Well, wow. I stayed there for a year and my grade point average was so good that I applied for UC Berkeley and got accepted. That's where I met Herbie Hancock.
Amazing.
My band opened for him at a concert at Zellerbach Auditorium on the Berkeley campus. And after the gig, Herbie asked me, actually Herbie introduced himself to me. He said, man, why don't you come sit in with me tonight? And I said, what? And I called all my friends up. I'm going to play with Herbie Hancock tonight, And actually, I brought a few instruments over to the club, and I sat down, and I was early, of course, because I was excited. Yeah. And Herbie eventually walked in, before the gig, and he walked by and he saw my stuff sitting not on stage but on the side, and he says, "What is all this shit?" And I went.
You're like, oh man.
I didn't play with him that night. I left. I was really upset that he did that. And so I said, well, all my stuff is not shit, okay? It's sacred instruments. So I picked my stuff up and left. And 6 months later, Herbie came back to the campus to do a lecture. And I was the TA for the professor. And I had to pick Herbie up and bring him to the lecture. And on the way to the lecture, he said, man, do we know each other? I have some recollection of having met you, and I was kind of mad at him. So I was like, I had an attitude, and I wasn't a Herbie Hancock person. And we passed it up. We talked, and he said, did I actually do that? And he must have said, did I do that about 20 times? He said, like, did I do that? You mean I did that? You mean I did that? I said, yeah, you did that, Herbie.
Yeah, you did.
And he said, man, he apologized. And I went and I sat in with him. And later on, he called me to do a gig. And he paid me. And I went to the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. And I went on the stage. I went to the stage. I had my gear. I had a hotel room and cartage and stuff. And I went to the hall. And there was a grand piano on the stage and a harp and my percussion. That was it. And I said, and Herbie came. I said, well, Herbie, where's the band? Because there was a band called Mwandishi.
Yes.
And I kind of sat in with them for a while. But he said, well, there is no band like that. It's just me, you, and Alice Coltrane. That was my
oh my God.
That was my first gig with him. And from there came the Headhunters. And you know who Paul Jackson is, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, let me tell you something. A lot of people don't know this. Paul Jackson played trombone. Okay. Now I played in bands with Paul Jackson. I was playing sax and flute and he was playing trombone.
Wow. Like Louis Satterfield. Wow.
Yeah, we knew me and Paul knew each other. Jeez. And I went to Herbie's house and Herbie sent for me and he said, I want you to come and play with me and some other guys. And when I got there, it was Paul Jackson, Benny Maupin, Herbie Hancock, Harvey Mason, and myself. And that was the beginning. That's how it started.
And that is what directed me and my older brother Kofi's path in life. That right there.
Hey man, I think I knew Kofi, your brother.
Yeah, I really hope that I never got a chance to play with you. A lot of my friends have, and I always hope that Kofi.
You play with the dead, right?
Yes. But I know Weedy, I know Adam Deitch, Krasno, Nigel Hall, all these guys that have played with you. Kofi was down there a lot.
I played with no, that's just a damn shame I can't remember his name. Grateful Dead. What was the leader's name?
Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, I played with him.
I didn't even know that. When was that?
He had a record deal with Fantasy Records.
Yeah.
He had a solo record deal. I played on his records.
I didn't know this. This is great. This is great.
Me either.
You played on so many records, man. Jesus.
Do you know Vince Welnick? Did you know Vince?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know him personally, but I know who.
Vince Welnick was like this.
Really? That's how you got, of course. See, tell you, dude.
Yeah, the Dead is the yeah.
Vince, I lived in a place called Camp Meeker. And Vince Welnick and his wife at the time, they lived not far from me. So we hooked up constantly. And, Vince also, I think at points played with the Tubes.
Yes.
I know he introduced me to
the
Tubes.
He was in the Tubes before the Dead.
And I used to play with the Tubes.
You played with the Tubes with Garcia, Stevie Wonder.
Herbie.
You can just go across the board, man.
You
truly are a world musician.
I actually wanted to ask you because Pharaoh Saunders passed away this weekend. Did you have a good? Did you know him? Did you play with him?
Pharaoh also.
Yeah. Oh, I figured you did.
And John Handy and Carlos Santana.
So many.
Yeah.
Just goes on.
And,
I know Carl Perazzo because Mark Quinones introduced me to.
And Raul.
Mm-hmm.
And James Levi. And, man, I played with the Pointer Sisters and Gaylord Birch. And, these were Bay Area people. Yeah. I actually, I don't know if you know James Levi, but I learned how to be a band leader from a guy named James Levi. I learned everything to do and everything not to do from James. James was a guy. And then I worked with Coke Escovedo, and I worked with Pete Escovedo until Sheila was old enough to go to the club. I played in the band for years.
Wow!
And then we did a record together called Solo 2, and Billy Cobham produced that record.
Love Billy Cobham.
So I got a chance to work with Billy Cobham. I mean, when I look at my own credits, I want to meet that guy. Because I play with Dizzy, I play with Miles, Ella, Sarah Vaughan, Eartha Kitt, Nina Simone, Diane Reeves, Anita Baker. I mean, these are just the ladies.
It's just the ladies.
That's the ladies.
Yeah, I mean, Phyllis Hyman.
Dude.
And you fit in being a priest in there at some point, too.
Who?
I said, and you fit in being a priest in there at some point, too. That's a pretty incredible existence.
The thing about being a priest is, that's a word that Americans understand. But being a priest means being a human being.
Sure, of course.
You see what I'm saying? It ain't the same. It's not the same as what people may think a priest is.
Sure.
That's great, man.
And you guys have a new album that's coming out soon, right?
Yeah, it's called Speakers in the House.
Nice.
And it'll be released soon. We actually recorded it in France, in a place called Nazaire, France, about 5, 6, 7 years ago. But
oh wow!
Like in anything else, you put it in the oven. You have to let the cake rise. It has to bake.
Yeah.
So this music has been baking for a while, and we finally got it. Being a musician and being an artist, sometimes the opportunities are not there. Like the Headhunters, we backed up Herbie for years, and we also had solo records out. Yeah. We had one called Survival of the Fittest, And there was a tune on there called "God Make Me Funky."
Oh man!
Oh yeah.
Played it with my band.
That tune was sampled by Grandmaster Flash.
Yep.
And everybody else in the hip hop industry. It's the most sampled song in hip hop history.
Wow!
So
I didn't know that.
And we're talking about. I work with Ice Cube, Ice-T, Melly Mel, Grandmaster Flash. Ice-T, Ice Cube, Ice Milk, Ice
Ice Coffee.
I even work I even work with Vanilla Ice. For real.
I'm not even joking.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful for me. It's been wonderful. I also had a band in the Bay Area called Summer's Heat. And Bill Summers and Summer's Heat. And that band really we were doing better than Herbie was.
You had you had a couple of hits, right, with that band?
Yeah, several. I had one song that a rapper, his name is Young Jeezy. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yep.
Young Jeezy approached me and a couple of guys from the Bay Area that work with Summer's Heat, Larry Batiste and Clayton Richardson. And they were, main members of Summer's Heat. And we wrote a tune, Dreaming. And this tune was in the graveyard. Okay, well, it was kind of over. It goes up the charts, come down the chart. It was years ago, and this guy, Young Jeezy, he was a rapper. He liked the song, and he said, "Man, could I use the song? Could we redo this song?" And I said, "Well, as long as you're not saying bitch and hoe and demeaning our women and doing something negative, yeah, you can." And so he wrote a song called, and he left the title, Dreaming. It sold 2 million copies.
Nice.
So you don't go to it's never over till it's over.
That's awesome, man.
I went to the mail. I used to rob the mailbox on that one.
Rob the mailbox. I love that.
This has been incredible. What a great chat.
Man, yeah, Bill, thank you so much, man. I don't even know what to say.
Just be happy, bro. Remember, the most important thing, if it ain't fun, I'm not going to say the word, but F it. If it ain't fun, something's wrong.
Right.
I've said that for a long time.
I learned that from Quincy. If it ain't fun, something's wrong. If there's someone who rocks the boat, don't fire him, just don't hire him again.
I love it, man.
Those are very important lessons.
Yeah.
Are you still in New Orleans?
Yeah, I've been in New Orleans. I've been living in New Orleans for over 30 years. And that's where all my family's from. That's home. I probably will die and be buried on my ancestral land. I go to that land at least 3 or 4 times a week, and I conduct. I have picnics for kids. I have a foundation called Club Kid. So if you go to Club Kid, which is spelled KLUBKID.org, you'll see the work that I do. We're in Australia, we're in Germany, we're in Haiti, we're in Cuba, we're in Russia. We do things all over the planet for, trying to change, trying to be good Christians.
That's awesome.
Trying to just do the right thing. We do a lot of good work. I work in the school system in New Orleans, and I try to give back.
I know you teach the kids with this, and
the first thing I teach them, the commandment number 1 in my program is get paid.
Amen.
Yeah. I teach kids how to get paid. If that's a big deal, because the Black artists have been ripped off
forever.
And it's still happening. And what's happened now is because Black artists and producers have learned this learn bad habits, what was perpetrated against us. Now we're perpetrating that against ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very much against that. I mean, I am the N-word of the music industry. The percussionist is the last one hired and the first one fired. Okay, so I've had to deal with discrimination all my life, and as a musician in America, I don't think either one of you guys could name me 3 percussionists who were born in the United States that have had a record deal ever in the entire history.
Wow, I can
name you 2 off top: Sheila E. and Bill Summers. Now,
because Ray Barretto is from, even though we ran him out of New York,
no, that don't count. Mongo Santa Maria doesn't count. Ayesko doesn't count.
Yeah, South America.
People who play the kind of music like
Entombed.
Entombed. I'll give you Entombed.
All right, I came up with the third one. All right, but now I'm done.
Well, Entombed was. I mean, I think he got more of a reputation as a producer.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think Entombed, the Heath brothers, wasn't he related? Wasn't his father one of the Heath brothers? Tootie or what's up, my man?
He can't hear you because of my headphones.
Oh, okay.
Bill Summers. He said, "What's up, my man?" Hi.
There's the teach him right, man. Just teach him the right thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say before we let you go. I hope that I can come to New Orleans because that is where I make my pilgrimage. That's my Mecca. And I was going to originally say, hopefully you will teach me, but hopefully you will share some information with me.
Share some information.
Because I really want to reconnect these rhythms that I know from since I was 7 years old.
Hey, man, do me a favor. Do me a favor. When you come, before you get to New Orleans, call me up so I can pick you up from the airport.
Oh, man. From Kenner.
Yeah, from Kenner, Louisiana. It is.
I will do that for sure, because I feel like this is a circle closing that I've been waiting for literally my entire life. And I wish Kofi was alive to see this, but I'm glad that you knew him, man, because we definitely...
Hey, man, listen, before we hang up, I want to show you something. I want to show you guys something. You guys need to know about this. If I can find it, I put it in my bag. I thought I did. Maybe I put it in my suitcase, but I'm getting ready to go to the airport really soon. Here we go. Okay, here you go. See this?
Yes.
It says Forward Back.
Right.
Okay, that's my new group.
Oh, excellent.
Forward Back. Now, this music is about what we just talked about. In order to go forward, we have to go back.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to correct the history that was written that's erroneous. In order for my people to get it, we have to go back.
Right.
So this music on this record is called Forward Back. The group is called Forward Back. We'll be in Oakland, California, playing at a place called Jeffrey's Inner Circle. It is the last Black-owned club of music in the Bay Area.
Wow.
Okay? I'll be with the Headhunters. We're performing at SF Jazz on the 22nd and 23rd of October. Then we go across the bay to Oakland, and with Forward Back, you can get this, you can go to you can find this on iTunes, Spotify, any of that. Any of those.
I'm on it.
You know what I'm talking about. You can get it very easily. We're on Instagram, and we're everywhere. And I'm gonna send you guys a link tree so you can see our videos.
Beautiful.
And understand what this is about.
Awesome.
This is the future. This is the future. I mean, it's got all the elements of the music that I played all my life. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done. It's this.
Wow.
Can't wait to hear it, man.
It's real. It's the rhythms. I play the rhythms that we were speaking about on this record. But the music has all these elements, jazz, funk, hip hop, but it's about the tradition. So, if you get a chance, go and get Forward Back Volume 1. I've done that. I plugged it.
Nice. Volume 1 means there will be a Volume 2 as well.
See you guys later.
Nice. Safe travels, and thank you for spending time with us.